Jannik Sinner. He is the most puzzling tennis player I've watched during my entire time being a fan of the sport. For a guy to be that lanky and that built the way he is, to produce such power that he does on his serve, on his backhand, on his forehand, insane winners, covering every inch of the end line, he is something we have never quite seen before, and he just took out the GOAT, Novak Djokovic, in straight sets. I kind of hate using the term straight sets, especially in slams, which are 3 out of 5. A lot of people think that just because you were straight setted, that means you were destroyed, you were demolished. This is about as close of a straight set match as you'll get. Jannik had to be on court for 3 hours and 16 minutes. Obviously, Novak is way better than any opponent that he faced during this run so far. The first 4 weren't great, and then he just made some guys who were good players look silly, especially Andrei Rublev, and Lehechka's not bad, and he made them look like they had never picked up a tennis racket before. But what I kept saying about Jannik Sinner that is very different than Carlos Alcaraz is, Jannik plays every match like it's his last. He plays every match in the highest gear possible with no let-offs. And anytime there seems to be a let-off, it's just because he's going against a guy like Novak, who obviously he beat, and he's beat 5 of the last 6 times now. He round-robined him in the 2023 ATP Finals. He beat him in the Davis Cup, I remember that same year. He beat him in Australia in 2024, beat him in the Shanghai Masters at the end of 2024, and obviously here as well. And he has gotten the best of Novak. He's the person who has kind of exposed Novak's aging more than anybody else. You would think that'd be Carlos, but Novak beat Carlos in the Olympics. Novak beat Carlos in Australia. And that's just the ultimate styles make fights matchup, because Jannik can beat anybody, but he's lost his 4 matches to Carlos Alcaraz. Alcaraz beat him in the Roland-Garros semifinal last year, and obviously he beat him in Rome in his home tournament. Alcaraz took him apart. Obviously, Jannik had been suspended for 3 months, but he looked like by far the best player at the Italian Open going into that final, and then Alcaraz dealt with him. It wasn't a blowout, but he dealt with him, and it's insane to me to see how Jannik Sinner just doesn't change his level. If any match is pushed, that just shows you the quality of his opponent. And I cannot wait for this final against Alcaraz. Now, the funny part about this match is Novak didn't play badly. I don't think he played badly. I think he had 50 unforced errors. That was a bit much. Sometimes you could tell he was just trying to go for broke. Big forehands that narrowly missed the line. Was trying a bunch of drop shots, the same method that worked greatly against Zverev, because Zverev couldn't get any of those drop shots. Jannik's going to get to those drop shots. He is able to get to those drop shots. That's what makes him so different than Zverev. And Novak tried to change his mentality in his game of play, but Jannik is just too much for him at this stage of his career. We saw Novak beat Jannik Sinner at Wimbledon in 2023. We've seen him beat him in the ATP Finals, final that won Novak the ATP Finals in 2023. Handle him. But it just seems like at this stage of his career, Jannik is too much for him, which is weird, because I give Novak a greater chance to beat Carlos Alcaraz than I give him to beat Jannik Sinner. But I give Carlos Alcaraz a significantly better chance to beat Sinner than I would Sinner to beat Alcaraz. It's kind of how fun. Novak can beat Carlos. Jannik can't beat Carlos. Carlos can beat Novak. He did the last 2 Wimbledon finals, but can struggle with Novak, and then Novak struggles with Sinner. It's interesting how it works. It's all about styles, matchups, styles make fights. So it's not a written formula that if X beats Y, then Y has to be able to beat Z. If X beats Z, you know what I mean? So it'll be a mouth-watering final, 1 versus 2 in both men's and women's. This is what we want. We want the best playing each other in the biggest matchups in the sport. That is what we live for as tennis fans. It's always nice to see a wild card or a qualifier. Obviously, I was raving about Luis Poisson just a few days ago. It's nice to see that, but it's nice for the story. But you just know that person, because their quality is lower, given their ranking and given their most recent performances in tournaments, they have a much greater chance of laying an egg. like Boisson laid an egg against golf because she was done. She had gotten to the end of her Cinderella story. She had pushed it further than it should have gotten, but she had reached the end. But this is exactly what I believe we want to see. The best playing against the best in the biggest tournaments in the sport. Obviously, we've been blessed with the last two Wimbledon finals, you know, the student versus the master, the student overshining the master, but then the master getting revenge on the student in the Olympics in Cincinnati. So it'll be mouthwatering. I can't wait. Let's see if Sinner can show that there's a reason why I'm always in full gear and I always go to the highest of my ability. And so I can get matches over with quickly because he's going into a final now, having not dropped the set. Something I don't think many people realize is that Nadal has done this like 4 times. Federer has done this at least once, winning a major without dropping a single set. Novak, funny enough, has never done that. He's always had one match that was maybe kind of a dud. I remember the U.S. Open in 2023. He won 6 of his 7 matches he won in straight sets. But then to Jerry, I think that's how you say his name, a countryman of his, he dropped the first 2 sets and then came back and won in an epic 5-setter. But it seems like one of these games he always lets, turns the gas pedal off. Jannik never does. He saved multiple set points, at least 3 set points in the 10th game of the 3rd set. Where it's like, okay, if Djokovic gets this set, it's on. Whatever happens, it is on. Anything can happen. But you just felt like the moment that some luck started to turn against Novak when he missed an easy overhand and hit it into the net when it was 2-zip in the tiebreak, you just felt like, yeah, it's over. And it's just bad luck. Lights are up in the air. There's nothing you can do about it. Baseball players run into that issue all the time as well. You felt like this was Jannik's turn, this was Jannik's stage, and this was his chance. He is the number 1 ranked player in the ATP. I said hands down, I think if Carlos plays at his absolute best, nobody in the world can beat him, including Novak and including Jannik Sinner. But if he has a slip up, if he has something that doesn't quite feel his way or something like that, Jannik could easily beat him. So this is a very winnable game for both sides, and I cannot wait for the final. It's going to be mouthwatering. Major kudos to Jannik Sinner. You have been phenomenal. Everyone's trying to down you, drown on you, saying you're a doper. That's why you get so much power, even though you're so tiny. But you just come back 3 months after being suspended. They probably had to test you again, and you just show, oh, no, I'm the truth. And he's back in another final, and he's going to play the guy who has stopped him from winning several tournaments during his career, Carlos Alcaraz. This is our new rivalry. This is our new Djokovic and Nadal, Federer and Nadal. This is our new rivalry, and it is amazing, and I cannot wait for the final on Sunday. Sinner versus Alcaraz. Oh!